Hello, my name is Johan Meyer and I am the International Technical Trainer here at MEYLE. Today, I want to show you how to perform an oil change on an automatic transmission. You can see it here. An oil change kit for the ZF6HP19 transmission consisting of the oil, the complete oil pan already fitted with new magnets, a new gasket, a new O-ring, and also the connector, which is included in the kit as well. For those who haven't done this often, there's also an installation manual and new screws included. Specifically today, as part of the oil change, we will also be replacing a new gasket. This gasket sits between the valve body, that is the mechatronics, and the transmission housing, and it can be the cause of implausible or poor shifting operations. And once you've gotten to the point where the oil pan is off, you can do this step at the same time. But how exactly that works, we'll do together in a moment, together on the car. Now, after we have carefully removed the underbody protection panel, here is the bracket for the exhaust and the heat shield. At this point, we now have clear and direct access to all of the oil pan bolts. But first, of course, we need to drain the oil, and for that, we now have to loosen the oil drain plug. So now, at this point, we need to carefully loosen the oil drain plug. For that, we'll need a 10mm Allen key. And it's going to make a noise in just a moment, but that's completely normal. This clicking sound is expected and it's nothing at all to worry about. Now we're going to carefully drain the oil. For that, I've put on my safety goggles again, just to make sure it doesn't accidentally splash into my eyes. So, let's check right away if the oil smells burnt. That's always a clear and reliable indicator if the oil in the transmission smells burnt and of whether the transmission is damaged. The oil doesn't smell burnt at all and it has a very clear transparent color, so there's really no indication whatsoever that anything inside the transmission is broken or malfunctioning. However, if the oil does happen to smell burnt, it's always a strong indicator that the clutch has been slipping too much and that the oil has therefore been exposed to excessively high temperatures for a prolonged period of time. That's definitely not the case here. Very good, so we can continue. Now the oil is already out, so we can go ahead and carefully loosen the oil pan next. For that step, we'll need a Torx T40. It's recommended. To do it in a crisscross pattern, at least when loosening it. So I start by loosening one here, then one there, and so on. Just a little tip, that's how I always do it. I've now carefully loosened the screws with the ratchet. And I'll take the rest out with the cordless screwdriver, making sure to remove them a bit more gently. Because it's just much faster. But I try to keep the pan as level as possible, making sure to do it very carefully at all times so that oil doesn't leak out between the pan and the housing. Now we're going to replace the connector housing. For that, it's important to release this bayonet lock. You can use a screwdriver for this and twist it to release the connector. If you want to remove the connector now, you have to release this holder. To do this, press down on this clip and pull it downward. Now we need to carefully take out the connector after we've opened this bayonet lock. It's a bit constricted and cramped in there, but with the help of a screwdriver or another suitable tool, you can usually get it out pretty well. And now we can simply and carefully pull the connector housing right out of the transmission here. If you want to go one step further, you can actually replace this seal. It sits right here between the transmission housing and the valve body. This seal is exposed to a lot of pressure because the oil pump pushes the oil directly into the valve body here. And when this eventually wears out, it typically leads to shifting problems and defects. You can do this at low mileage if you want, but you should definitely make sure to do it at high mileage. For me personally, high mileage means vehicles that have reached 160,000 kilometers or even more than that. Click the link if you are interested and want to know exactly how to change the seal. Just carefully disconnect the wire from the electrical sensor. The next step is to carefully install this sleeve. Make sure that you properly insert these tabs, these guide tabs, into their correct positions, ensuring that everything is aligned as it should be. This tab or guide must be facing downwards. So now, when the transmission is in place, just slide it in like this. You'll also notice when you insert it whether it fits or not. It's really important to make sure you insert the guide tabs correctly so that this tab clicks into place. There, now it's locked in place. So, now that we've threaded the connector through here, it's pretty tight, we can put the connector back in. Please carefully make sure that the notch is at the bottom here. Then we put it back in. There, snap, and now we can gently push the bayonet lock down into place until we hear that clicking sound and the connector is back in place. So next we just need to route the cables properly again. To do that, slide them back into the designated holders. Don't forget this large cable here either. It's always especially important to install the gasket dry. Don't coat it with oil or anything like that. Install it dry. Next, we'll proceed to install the oil pan. For this step, we need to make absolutely sure that the O-ring, which you can see right here on the pipe, is properly centered in this guide right here. If you want, you can put a little bit of transmission oil here to help with the installation. But as I mentioned before, do not put any oil on the outer gasket. It's best to do this from the right side because from that angle you can see very well exactly how to insert it correctly and ensure everything is aligned. You'll feel a slight resistance. There you go, that's it. Now that we've screwed on the oil pan, we can start tightening it to the specified torque. For this, we'll need a small torquey wrench and we'll set it carefully to exactly 10 Newton meters. Then we'll do it like this so that we carefully tighten the oil pan in an appropriate crisscross tightening sequence. So now that the fill plug is out, we can actually already start filling in the oil. We slowly fill in the oil until it starts coming out here again, just like before. The engine hasn't been started yet. It will only be started afterwards. Now, as you can clearly see, it's starting to drip out. At this point, we stop the filling process and then right away we start the engine. Now that the engine is running, we need to carefully fill it a second time until the oil is visibly running out again. We now carefully shift the transmission to R and hold it there for about 10 seconds. Then to R, to N, and then to N. Next, we shift to D and hold it there for about 10 seconds as well, making sure to keep it steady throughout this time. After that, we can shift back to P. Now that we've shifted through the gears, we need to hold the idle speed steady at approximately 2000 RPM for around 30 seconds. So, what we need to do now is, with the engine running, access the control unit for the transmission control. Then, under actual values, we check the engine speed and transmission temperature. Let's display them. We need to be exactly between 30 and 35 degrees. During the inspection, we'll unscrew the bolt in just a moment and see if anything comes out again or not. Now, during a test drive, make sure to bring the transmission oil temperature up to at least 75 degrees Celsius. After the transmission oil has now reached a temperature of at least 75 degrees, we check the oil level for a third time. Now that we've carefully tightened the bolt, the fill plug again to exactly 35 Newton meters of torque, we can begin the process of reassembling everything back together. Maybe take a moment to do one last thorough check to see if there are any oil leaks present here, just to be absolutely sure. But that's not the case here. And then we can go for a test drive right away. As the final step, we'll now take a test drive. For detailed instructions on how to replace the gasket, please click the link for your convenience.